Okay, so general form looks like this. So it's different than the forms we've been doing with standard and transformation. Okay, so the slope, that is still the a value, which is the multiplier of x squared. So that's the same. Nothing is new with that. So again, it's going to tell us negative could flip, narrow if big, widen. Okay, and that's all the same. So it's how many x squareds you have. That's what that number is. Okay, the y-intercept, so where x equals 0, so think about your math. If x was 0, this would be gone, because 0 squared times anything, that's just 0. This would be gone. So the value of your y-intercept would just always end up whatever number is a constant. That's called a constant because it has no variable on it. Okay, now here's the new piece, the vertex. Negative b divided by 2a, comma, plug in. So this is the thing that's different, real different. It's going to be a little formula, negative b over 2a, comma, plug in. Okay. Also, as a side note, we're going to talk about this relationship. Okay, so this parabola has two x-intercepts like that. The vertex, there's going to be something that happens. The vertex is always going to end up with symmetry. The vertex is always going to end up smack dab in the middle. Does that make sense? So the vertex is always going to be in the middle because of that symmetry piece. So for instance, if this was at 8 and this was at -2, what would the x value be in the middle of those values? So if you ever want to think about the middle, you can do add them and then divide by 2. So what x value is smack dab in the middle of that? 3? Or they're 10 apart, so you need to move 5 jumps to get to there. Okay, so here we go. Number 1. So I want you to identify for me what's A, what's B, what is C? How much is each of these letters? So A, how many x squareds do you see? -1. You see -1 x squareds. How many b's or how many x's do you see? -6. And how many numbers do you have without letters? -7. Okay, so the vertex, so we have this little formula, -b over 2a. So here we go. negative b. So what's the opposite of RB? Positive 6 divided by 2 times a. Okay, I want you to understand something, because I get this a lot. Somebody is going to get this wrong. 6 divided by 2 times negative 1. That's wrong. Why is that going to come out wrong? Because you have to do, you need brackets. Okay, that's right. Okay, so if you are going to be typing in your calculator, please note that. Okay, I need to make sure my BEDMAS does what I want. Okay, but I'm going to do this in my head. What's 6 divided by negative 2? Negative 3. Okay, so now it says to plug in. So if I know the x value, I'm going to go replace the x value. So y equals the negative of negative 3 squared, subtract 6 times negative 3, subtract 7. So do you see what I did? I wrote this equation, but every time there was an x, I plugged negative 3 into the x, negative 3 into the x. Okay, so in math, if you know x, you plug it in, and the output will be a y. Okay, it's like an input-output. You can put it in and see what you get out. Okay, I want you to be careful here. Without a calculator, tell me what that is. So think about BEDMAS. You'd have to do exponents. You've got your exponent value. Then times. Were you thinking the same? Because I square to positive, but then I times to negative. Lots of you are going to be typing into your calculator, so making sure if you ever have a negative number, put it in brackets. So again, me typing something like this is a wrong type. You need to be typing, if you're going into your calculator, you need to be using this when you're squaring, okay? Okay, what are we at here? So that makes 9, subtract 7. Did you get a 2? Okay, let's pause. Let's get our calculator out, and I actually want you to type that sentence in and see if you can get 2 with how you type. Practice your typing skills. That's a big deal because that's probably what most of you are going to do. Can you type that in properly to get a 2? Okay, so you can see how you'd need negative of negative 3 squared, like that. Okay, it was all good. Everybody's kind of figured out their buttons. Okay, slope. So what's the A number? So what's the, how many x squareds? We wrote that down. Negative 1. So which direction does this go? Is it upward or did it flip downward? It's going to be opening down because a negative. Okay, axis of symmetry, so that's that cut line. How do we start that line? Because we need an equation to make a line. So what kind of start to an equation are you going to do? X equals, and where's that x value? We're finding that x value because it's going to go through the vertex. Domain, what's that left to right? What's going on? Negative infinity to infinity. Okay, range, we got to think about that one a little bit because I'm going to draw a little down. So what's the lowest? So it's going down, down to a very top height of, what number is that height at? 2. So we're finding it here because it's the y values are heights. And are you going to note a square bracket on that? Because it hits an exact. Okay, so what happens if x was 0? So y-intercept, what happens if x is 0? What's the number? -7. Okay, so give me a sketch like that. So that's my vertex, so -3, 2. Okay, what does this pattern do? How do we always start this pattern? 1, 1, 2, and then 4, 3, and 9. Should we do that or should we change it somehow? Change it because we had a different slope number, so we had a -1 slope number. So we're changing those numbers. Okay, obviously we're doing that pattern but downward, right? Because of that flip. Okay, so that's what I'm going to expect on a test. I ask you to give me 5 points on a test. So there's my 5 points. Does your y-intercept make sense? -7 on that graph, would that work? Yeah. Looks like it would cross right there at -7. So there's my 1, 1, and my 2, 4 set. Okay, number 2 here. Let's check out our A, B, and C values first. Okay, so my A value is how many x squareds? 3. 12 x's and -4 constants. Okay, vertex. So we're going to do that little formula. So opposite B. So negative 12. Because I had a positive 12, so negative 12. Over 2 times A. So again, if you typed that into your calculator, you would need brackets on the 2 times 3. But you could do this in your head. The bottom value is 6. So negative 12 divided by 6. Okay, so you're going to be plugging it in. So 3 times negative 2 squared, 12 times negative 2 minus 4. Okay, you are allowed to type into your calculator. I'm going to be doing mine in my head. Let's see if we can all get the same number. Okay, how did that go? I got a negative 16. We like that value. Okay, so the slope number, so what's the A value? 3x squared. So 3 is our number that we're working with. So that's going to make my parabola be pointing upward, right? Because it's just a positive number. Axis of symmetry, the cut line. So a line is an equation. So you need something equals something. Vertical lines are x equals, because everywhere you go on that line, you are at the same x value. And the x value you're going to go through is negative 2. Domain, have we mastered that one? Negative infinity to infinite. Range, I like to draw myself a little picture because it's opening upward. So now I think the bottom is a number and the top is up. Okay? Pictures. Okay, so negative 16 is the bottom. Okay, the y-intercept. You get 1 second to figure it out. What's your math? Negative 4. Okay, because there's no x's, so forget the x's, forget the x's. Okay, I don't want to waste too much time graphing here, so can you just give me something like that? Don't worry about tick marks, because I don't want to kill 5 minutes of you just sketching here. Okay, so 1, 1, 2, 4, 3, 9. That's that pattern of the parabola. Do we do exactly that, or should we change that? Change by 3. Slope numbers. Okay, can you make yours look something like that? So obviously on a test you're going to have your tick marks, but here's my 3 up. Okay, do you remember what this should be at? We wrote that down, right? That's at a height of -4. Does that make sense? That's 12 up. This was -16, 12 up, -4, right? You see those connectors? Do you notice that it narrowed? Those arms got in, right, because of the 3. Okay, so on this one we're going to also add intercepts, x-intercepts, so that we didn't do those on the first 2 questions. Okay, so again, here we go. A, B, C. How many x squareds do you have? 1, right? You can't see it. It's just 1 x squared. -2 is the value of x's, and -8 is the constant value. Okay, y-intercept, 1 second. -8. There's no x's, boom, -8. The slope, 1. Okay, so here's the new part. X-intercepts. So remember what the deal with x-intercepts is? You have to make y 0. Okay, do you understand that you can't do like an isolation algebra? You know how normally you collect terms and, right, move and divide? Okay, you can't do that here. The reason I can't do that is because x squareds and x's are completely different. I know that you think they're the same because they're that same letter, but they're different. So I want you to think about in real life, could you mix square feet and linear feet together as measurements? No, they're different. So same with x squareds and x's, you can't be putting them together. So we have to think about separating x's. So what is our magic word on the process of how to separate x's? We did this on the day 1 of this unit. It's that magic, the F word. Factoring. Yep. Factoring. Get your mind out of the gutter, some of you, when I said the F word. Factoring is the one. Okay. We have a few different styles. Do you remember them all? I'll list the 4, and you can pick which one this is. Simple trinomials, complex trinomials, GCF, difference of squares. So which one would you pick out of those for here? Did you think that this was a simple trinomial? So give me 2 brackets with an x times x. That's how you're getting that x squared. On that FOIL part, the LL needs to multiply to 8. But don't forget, in the middle, it's going to have to add. So what multiplies and adds? Got something that will work? 4 times 2. One of them is going to have to be negative to make -8. So that multiplies, check, adds, check, right? So what x value makes 0? 4 and -2. Okay, so I'm going to draw some of these things in that I know. So here's what's happening. We have a 4x intercept. We have a negative 2x intercept. We have a negative 8y intercept. Can you kind of visualize what's going on already? We're not going to draw it yet. Where would you draw me the axis of symmetry already? Can anybody tell me where that would go? What x value would you have to cut through? 1. That's where you would have to cut through, because if these are partners, they're symmetric partners, right? They would have to be the same from the middle then, right? Okay, so let's go to the vertex to finish this off. Okay, so give me something for a negative b over 2a. Negative b. So positive 2 over 2 times a equals 1. Okay? Guess what else you just did? Halfway was 1. So see how we got to the same thing? Negative b over 2a, or we discovered that also halfway in the middle. And now what do you have to do? I need you to plug it in. So get that, plug it in. So I'm just going to give you this to save some time so you can have more time to work. So calculator, negative 9. So vertex, does that fit in the puzzle? Okay, and then one more quick check here. 1, 1, 2, 4, 3, 9. Should we do that or should we change that? We should do exactly that because the slope was just 1. So we should go exactly that. Does that fit? That fits that point. Yeah, that's fitting everywhere. It's all connecting together. Okay, we are going to do you want another one exactly like that? Do you want me to do this? It's exactly the same idea. Yay or nay? Okay, I'll go to this one then. It's a little different. Okay, so we have an equation. Get me my ABC values. So how many x squareds? 1. How many x's? Negative 16. How many constants? 0. Good. It's not there, right? So 0. What is your y-intercept? So what happens if x was 0? What would you get? if you plugged in 0? 0. It's also just whatever here, right? Whatever the constant is. So the slope is 1. The x-intercepts so again, you cannot use basic algebra here because you can't group those together at all. You can't put x squareds and x's together. So you have to factor. Okay, this is a different style. It's not a trinomial. It's not a difference of squares because I can't square root 16x. I can square root 16, but I can't square root 16x. What's another one of our styles? GCF. Is there something in this term and something in this term I could take out? Yeah. I could take an x out of both of them. So this one is a little tricky. I get lots of people who think it is the difference of squares because 16, but it's not 16, it's 16x. Okay, so we get x times x and x times negative 16. So my x-intercepts are what makes this 0, 0, and what makes this 0, 16. Okay, so that's what's happening. There's my y-intercept and my x-intercept and another x-intercept. Does anybody know where the axis would go, which is eventually where the vertex will land on? What value will the vertex land on? The vertex will land on an 8. The vertex will land on an 8. Okay, I'm going to double check that. Let's go negative b over 2a. Let's see if we get an 8, because we already know the answer. Negative b over 2 times a. Negative b, so opposite. So we had a negative already, so now opposite is positive. Hey, that makes 8. We already knew that. So we did it right. Plug-in. So this is called my plug-in. So there's the vertex.